Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Recovery Snack by Recovery Concepts. I'm Chris on this wonderful Thursday, May 7th. This is my first actual Thursday off since it started getting warm again. I usually work 4-day weeks in the cold seasons and 3-day weeks. Try to work 3-day weeks in the warm season. So I'm kind of happy about that. It's nice to have a full day off, which oddly became full of tasks. So I'm not sure if it's going to be less activity than last few Thursdays were or more. But I woke up again today, so we're fitting to find out. Let's dive in here and see what's going on. May 7th. Oh boy. A quote from I'm going to kill it. I'm going to butcher it. Publilius, Publilius, Publilius Cyrus. Publius Cyrus. I'm thinking. Anyway, quote, "How unhappy is the person who cannot forgive himself or herself?" It's important who said it. I think it's more important to hear that. How unhappy is the person who cannot forgive himself or herself? One of the most important things we do in recovery is to forgive ourselves. It is so important that it takes the first 9 steps to teach us to do it fully. Our path to self-forgiveness is a difficult one. First, we have to take a hard look at how we lived and what we have done. Once we have the facts, we can decide to get well. Why do we find it so hard to let go of blaming ourselves? Because our ego insists that we are in control, and so we are to blame. We need to give up the idea and accept the facts. We have a disease that is stronger than we are. Now we can face the damage, repair it, and move on with our lives. Now we can learn how to manage our disease. With help from a higher power, our higher power, and our program, and live a good and useful life. Prayer for the day. Higher power, I can't be free to do your will for me when I am bound up in ego and self-blame. Help me let go, accept my disease, and forgive myself. Today's action. Today I will call my sponsor and talk about the ways I am being responsible for dealing with my disease. Then I can talk about self-forgiveness. I like that last paragraph. Now we face the damage, repair it, and move on with our lives. Now we can learn how to manage our disease with the help from our higher power and our program, and live a good and useful life. The ego piece of it, I get 100%. Because I was ego and fear driven, which is a weird combination, but nonetheless true to my story. But forgiving myself was hard for me. I can absolutely relate to that because of the simple fact I knew all my secrets, man. I know how I was raised, I know what I was taught, and I knew all my secrets. And, sitting alone in isolation trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing and why things are the way they are, those haunting actions and thoughts crept into my head, man. They lived in me, man. I couldn't get out of them because I couldn't get away from them because I could never confess to them. And I don't know that I even knew that would do it. But, during active addiction for me, it wasn't the right time to confess to them to anybody anyway because I wasn't done. I wasn't done until I got into recovery and most specifically step work, to where I started getting some of the payback, some of the fruits of the labor, man. Getting to a point to where I started to understand what the hell had happened, what was going on, and that people were getting well and fixing it and working it out. I didn't have the capability to stop a lot of the things. Some of it was intentional, but a lot of it wasn't. I wasn't intending on doing some of the things I did, For sure. It was never a woke up, got out to bed, and here's my plan today, man. But the problem with addiction for me is if you put drugs and alcohol in me, the subsequent actions and these things that I did not want to happen and I swore it would never happen again, periodically happened again. And I couldn't tell you what day it was, because if I did, I would have drank and used differently that day. I wouldn't have gone out to that party. I wouldn't have went out to that race. I wouldn't have went out to that football game and got going the way that I did if I knew you're going to show your ass and do some stupid stuff later that you are going to deeply, deeply regret. If I knew that was coming that day, I would have drank some beer instead of liquor. I would have used a less illicit drug, something, I smoked a joint instead of doing some of these other things or whatever. It kind of got me way out on the outside, man. But that's addiction for me. Number one, I needed it medicinally. Number two, I couldn't tell you when the bad things was coming, man. I knew the possibility was there, but I'd swore to myself this is how I'd fixed it so it ain't gonna happen no more. But it was all bull. It's all bull. I couldn't make it stop. I have a disease, a critical, deadly illness, man, that I can absolutely die from, no problem whatsoever, man. But also, I can absolutely arrest. I can make it stop. If I do the things, this is how it was in early career. If I do the things I don't want to do. Hell, I was doing things I didn't want to do anyway, but I didn't view it that way. I was doing actions and things and being a person I didn't want to be and doing things I didn't want to do anyway. But this recovery thing sounded weird, man. I didn't want to do it. If I do the things in early recovery I don't want to do, I get into a position to where they're not as pertinent of a driver in my life anymore, because they're no longer the things I don't want to do. They're the things that I get to do. These habits start to become who I am. Like me walking into a bar that I frequented back in the day, and I didn't even choose a seat. I sat down where they put my stuff. I sat down where they dropped my 22, my flower pot bread, and my shot. When I walked in, they saw me, I saw them. They put my stuff down. I didn't pick a seat. I sat where they put my stuff. That was a habit. That was a well-ingrained habit for them to know what I wanted. When I walk into a meeting today in recovery, I usually get a little hug, a little bit of dap. Somebody asks me how my grandbaby's doing, and I ask them what's going on in their lives, because my habit is I'm in these places now, and people know me. And it's no longer what I got to do. It's what I get to do. These are my habits now, man, and I enjoy them, and it's so much better than what it used to be. I thought about it one time about my critical illness, my critical, deadly damn illness, man. And I thought about people with late stage cancer and renal failure from diabetes or whatever. Do you think that if it was medically capable of happening, if a doctor told them, look, we can make this stop. We can make your cancer stop. We can make your diabetes, the renal failure. We can make your heart failure. We can make these things stop. But you'll have to go read this book, work some steps, and go to meetings. You think they'd do it? I think they would. I think they would. Early recovery puts us in a position to where we're feeling better, starting to get some sanity back and clearer thoughts, and all of a sudden, we're not feeling and we're not in desperation like we used to be. And we position ourselves and put ourselves in a middle capacity sometimes to where we don't need to do that stuff because everything's getting okay now. Well, the problem is it just circles back around if we don't. That's been my experience anyway. But I think it's a small price to pay that I ended up reading a book, getting a sponsor, being very uncomfortable about talking about all my dirt, and then maintenance and maintaining these things through group meetings with like-minded people who are trying to get better themselves. Very small price, and I believe people with other critical illnesses would hop to it and absolutely get down doing it if that was a way to arrest their critical illness. So that's what I got out of that. I'm rolling and rambling, so I appreciate y'all joining me. Y'all know the spiel. Please subscribe, share, like, most specifically share in your social media accounts. Excuse me, if you're moved to do so. That exposure would help maybe, get some more people interested in this, trying to grow this thing. But regardless, I'm glad that you are here, and I hope you join me again tomorrow. Come on back. We'll make a Friday out of it. Y'all have a blessed day. Stay safe, and see you soon. Peace.